Our scripture tonight is the second part of Romans chapter 12 and verse 3 as we continue in our studies in Romans chapter 12 and the type of Christian living that is explained in a very thorough and practical means in Romans chapter 12. As we consider this passage, one of the questions that we most often confront is, why does God seem to bless people differently? I mean, we can look around and see that there's not an equity, so to speak, in blessings. The Bible teaches us that God is no respecter of persons, yet there's a clear difference in the measure of blessings that some enjoy. God certainly is no respecter of persons in that he's not willing to do for one what he's not willing to do for others, especially in terms of inclusion in the plan of salvation. This context of no respecter of persons comes from the idea in Acts chapter 10, where God wanted it understood that it doesn't matter about your racial background. Salvation is inclusive to all. But on a more practical basis, we try to understand the differences we see in blessings to others. Maybe we need to consider that God blesses us differently because we are different people. Let me help us understand this. In Romans 12, verse 3, "For I say through the grace given unto me to every man that is among you, not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think, but to think soberly." We dealt with that portion of the passage last week, and the basis of that is that God is more concerned about your character than he is your credentials. However, the last part of that verse says, "According as God have dealt to every man the measure of faith." Taking that with the context of the verse in its entirety, the instruction there is that we can easily develop a sense of pride where we exalt ourselves because we say, I am where I am, and I have what I have, and I've made what I've made, all because of me. I'm so smart, I've worked so hard, or whatever it is that causes us to think it's really about us. Gratitude is really the result of knowing the source of all of our blessings. The source of our blessing, number one, His grace. Any blessing that we have is undeserved on our part. Our life, our salvation, our talents, our abilities, that's all because of His grace. It's also His gift to us. He gives us gifts because He has a purpose in everything He does for us. But His purpose is never for our self-serving purposes. God never gives you a gift to satisfy you. His gift is always so that you can serve others. It is also His good measure. Notice it says that God accordingly has given to us every man the measure of faith. That means that God has determined what we need and how much we need. Not because He's playing favorites, but He in His sovereignty has the right to set expectations. God gives us what we can handle. And in giving us what we can handle, we must demonstrate good stewardship so that God may be willing to bless us with more. As we wonder why God may give someone else more, it may very well be that it's not our business to determine why they have so much, as it is our business to determine, have I been a good steward of what He has given to me? In Matthew chapter 25, verses 14 through 30, in the parable of the talents, we see that when God gives you something and you handle it well, he does not mind giving you more. When you do not use what he has given you for the right reasons and in a way that's acceptable to him, not only will he not give you more, sometimes he'll take from you what you have. Read Matthew 25:14-30 so that you can see I'm not making this up. As we consider our gifts and what God has given to us, we need to have a mind that acknowledges God's grace to us. It's not our grace to ourselves, it's God's grace. We need to have a mind that appreciates God's grace and a mind that anticipates giving that grace to others. Our question should not be, how do I promote myself? Our question should be, how do I share with others and serve others the way God has so willingly given to me? What can I do to benefit and bless someone else? That's what Romans 12:3 is teaching. So the subject for us to consider is not how much do I have? The real subject is how much am I willing to give? This has been another installment of A Few Minutes with the Minister.